The Joel Comm Show, featuring internet pioneer, New York Times bestselling author, and international speaker, Joel Comm. Helping you grow your business, live life today, and do good stuff. Here's the man who built his first website in 1995, your host, Joel Comm.
And welcome. It is The Joel Comm Show, and I am he. In fact, to my knowledge, there is only one person in the world with my name. And so that's it. I'm him. So when you Google my name, I'm the guy that you find. Now, many years ago while growing up in the Midwest, I remember my parents taking myself and my brother to Walt Disney World. And in fact, we went several times during our childhood, and it was truly an incredible, wonderful, magical place. Disney inspired me in so many ways. In fact, my brother and I used to build our own rides, quote unquote rides, in the basement of our home by turning furniture on its side and putting up walls with cardboard boxes, and we would make our own version of the Haunted Mansion with little spiders on the walls. And we had this little I don't know what you call it, some sort of like a teeter-totter thing that you'd be able to sit on and pull with a rope and pull the other person through the ride. We were very imaginative, and much of it was inspired by what we experienced through the magic of Disney at both Disney World and Disneyland. Well, I've been back to all the parks a number of times since growing up, which I don't know what that really means anyhow. And I was just so thrilled to discover this guy who is my special guest today, who is just one of the nicest people that you're ever going to meet in the whole history of all the nice people that you're going to meet. And here's what's amazing about it. He's a former attorney. Yeah, this guy practiced law, and he was so passionate about Disney, Walt Disney World, that he forsook his law practice and decided to follow his passion to become an expert about all things Walt Disney World. Well, he's done that. He's created a podcast called WDW Radio that's listened to by countless, I wouldn't say hundreds of thousands. He can correct me and tell me the actual numbers. And he is a speaker. He travels all over the world talking about Disney and about podcasting and sharing your content, following your passion. And he's with us here today. His name is Lou Mongello, and Lou is coming to us probably from the backyard of Mickeytown. Hey, Lou.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. You really are one of the nicest people I know.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot coming from the nicest person I know. So it's a mutual admiration society.
Look, I'm sporting the colors.
I dig it, brother. I dig it.
You know, and there's two reasons for it. One, because you're on the show. Two, because I haven't showered today.
Nice.
I know it's a little too much information, right? So you are my go-to guy for all things Disney. But for those who don't know you, talk a little bit about how did you go from practicing law to becoming the WDW radio guy?
Yeah, man. I've been going to Walt Disney World. My family piled in the family truckster starting in November of '71 and drove from New Jersey to Florida to visit Disney. And I just became fascinated by the place and learned everything I could about it. I was an attorney in New Jersey. Don't hold that against me. I'm a recovering attorney now. I had this idea of creating a product and reselling it. So I had this idea of writing a book, and all I knew about was Disney. So the goal was, can I write a book? Can I get it published? Found a publisher, signed a multi-book deal. When I saw the book, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, I thought that was it. But this community formed and this website grew, and it sort of started to snowball organically. And one day, man, I took the leap of faith, packed up the Honda Odyssey and drove to Florida. I've been podcasting since 2005 and really been talking about Disney full time since about 2007.
So kind of sucks to be you, because basically your life is going to the parks, experiencing all that they have to offer, meeting cool people along the way, working for yourself, enjoying your family by being at home and living the dream. Sucks, right?
Yeah, man. Listen, I am the most fortunate, blessed, grateful guy on the planet.
Okay, I'm gonna take that. And you just moved. You were like living just a stone's throw from the park. How far away did you move?
I'm a stone's throw and like half a mile. I moved. I mean, that's why the room is empty and echoey. So forgive me, but yeah, I moved, like a mile away from where I was renting. So.
Okay. Now, if you were following my Facebook stream, you know that I was just at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And got to experience with my my grown daughter. She's almost 21. We bought a park hopper pass and spent the day at the two parks and pretty much did everything. Space Mountain was closed at Disneyland, and Soarin', unfortunately, was closed at California Adventure. I tell you, though, we rode California Screamin' again and again and again. That is one of the best coasters I've ever experienced.
Yeah, man. The important thing is you said you did it all at DCA and Disneyland. The important question, and really the one that our friendship is going to hinge on, is did you have a cozy cone while you were there?
What, so if I say no, are you going off the air?
Which means we have to go back. Listen, you and I, we've toured Walt Disney World together. Now we've got to get together and go do Disneyland the right way.
Well, we've done two parks. We did the Magic Kingdom together, and we did Epcot.
Yeah.
And that actually was turned into an episode for your podcast because you took me around the world. We started at Mexico and went all the way around World Showcase, is Canada, right? Is the last stop in the World Showcase. And, growing up when I was younger, of course, Epcot was new and there wasn't much interest in going into all the back ways. And then when I was a parent with young children, they're not interested in hitting the back ways. So really with you was the first time in all my times at World Showcase that I went behind the facades, behind the front buildings. There's a lot there.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't go to any backstage areas, but we really spent some time. I think I even called it, Wandering World Showcase with Joel Comm, because we did what, and this is what I try and do on the show is make people, sort of go off the beaten path and go deeper into the pavilions. And we talked about the stories of the pavilions and the stories of how they came to be. And I love sort of hearing and sharing sort of the personal stories with you too.
When I look at your podcast and the number of episodes you've done, I think to myself, just how many things are there to say about Walt Disney World? But I'm actually going to pull it up here on my phone because I do follow and listen to your show. And like, for example, the recent episodes, movies you need to watch before you visit Walt Disney World. The golden a snack of the week, the Golden Oak Outpost waffle fries in Disney World. You talked about what's new with the Food and Wine Festival. By the way, I was there briefly for that. You talked about Mission Space on a whole episode. Top 10 mistakes for first-time visitors. And you're in episode 424.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shows about how many square miles in Orlando.
Yeah, so it's 47, and that actually doesn't include the show that I did for a year before that, and all the weekly newscasts, and all the videos I've done. But you're right, and I've never repeated a topic in 10 plus years of podcasting. I've always been able to talk about something new because there's different ways to approach it, and it's always changing. I mean, it's not a museum; it's this thing that's always sort of growing. And I try and cover topics that everything for the first time visitors to sort of the hardcore Disney fan as well.
Well, this is a different kind of show for me because typically I'm talking social media or business or making money online. And one of the things I love about Blab and podcasting and the various venues we have is that if we choose to, it's more about our brand and what's interesting to us and sharing that with other people. And so on this show, you might learn some things about podcasting and sharing your passion and your content. But this is really, if you like Walt Disney World and the magic that's created there, that's what we're here talking about today. My guest is Lou Mongello. Lou, when I was just in Disneyland, I know I'm hopping across the country again because I was just there. I had the opportunity to hop onto one of my favorite rides, which no longer exists at Walt Disney World. Can you tell me what it is?
I'm assuming it's Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. You seem like you're a Mr. Toad kind of guy too.
I am. I just love the charm of Mr. Toad. And of course, most people don't know that Mr. Toad came from a story called The Wind in the Willows. And I know that that's probably the reason they took the ride out of the Magic Kingdom, is to put something more familiar there. Is that correct?
Yeah, we say half jokingly that Winnie the Pooh killed Mr. Toad because, and you're right. I mean, and look, I love Toad. It's the classic Disney dark ride. Its beauty is in its simplicity, the dual track attraction. It was here in Walt Disney World. Winnie the Pooh, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh did replace it. It's interesting, man, because this was so far before social media and online communities. And at that point, they were literally having toad-ins. I mean, people were sitting in front of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride when they heard it was going to close. You could imagine what could have happened in 2015 if that was the same case.
Yeah, well, you said it was a dual track. By the way, I just got on Snapchat, so I'm Snapchatting that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just they said get on Snapchat, so I'm Snapchatting. I still don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So at Walt Disney World, there was 2 tracks that it was mostly a different experience. They intersected in the middle of Town Square. And
Yep.
You would pass by the other track as they went on their adventure, and then they ended up the same way. So the one at Disneyland, single track, everybody has the same experience. And my daughter and I we're looking at it now. She's an adult, I'm an adult, and we're looking at it and going, this ride is so bizarre. It's because it's this whimsical ride. You get hit by a train and you end up in hell.
Right.
The
Happily
end.
ever after, right? And I think that's part of what the disconnect for some people was normally you end up and, the princess gets the prince and they live happily ever after. And here you not only get hit by a train and die, but because clearly you're a bad person, you go to hell and then you go out into the Florida heat, which often feels like hell anyway. So.
Well, another experience that I had for the very first time is as many times as I've been in the Haunted Mansion in both locations, Florida and California. This was the first time that I saw the change that they make to it from before Halloween to January 10th. Mm-hmm. And it was a Nightmare Before Christmas theme. I thought that there would be a few things that they would change up in there. No, they decked the halls with Nightmare Before Christmas.
And I thought the same thing. When I heard about the overlay, I thought there'd be a few Jack Skellingtons, some pumpkins, a little Oogie Boogie here and there. But it is a completely different experience. You would almost forget that you were in the Haunted Mansion because there's very little remnant of it other than sort of the track. It's beautifully, beautifully done. And I know for me, it's almost another reason to want to go to visit Disneyland during that time of year.
Do they not do it at the Magic Kingdom?
They don't. And I don't think they ever will.
There was only one thing that I missed. And I told my daughter, I said, who does the voice, who your ghost host is? And she says, who? I said, they're great. Tony the Tigress, Thurl Ravenscroft. And so when we stepped in and you're in the elevator and it begins, I'm like, oh, they're going to tell us a whole new story. Yeah. Thurl is out for 3 months.
And I think, but that's the surprise that you get. You expect one thing, and I think that's what Disney does so well. You expect one thing of what the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay is going to be, and you're blown away by what you get instead.
Right. We're going to talk for a few more minutes here, and then we're going to open it up for those of you live on the Blab with us. Of course, this is being recorded for audio to be uploaded to iTunes for the Joel Comm Show as well. But if you have Disney experiences, Disney questions, you want to know any top secret things that you might not be aware of, this is the guy who knows what's going on. In fact, it was about, I can't remember, sometime this year that we were at Epcot and we were in the World Showcase in, is it Scandinavia?
Norway.
Norway. We were in Norway. And they've had this ride there since the beginning, which I just think is the funniest, cheesiest thing. Talk about the ride that's been there.
Yeah, so it actually wasn't there since the beginning. Actually, Norway and Morocco were actually added after World Showcase opened, and Maelstrom, it was only a few years later, but Maelstrom is an attraction that's been there since the beginning of the Norway Pavilion. And it's a quaint little attraction. It sort of takes you through the history and the spirit of Norway and the Vikings and oil rigs and bears and trolls. And I think the most beautiful part of Maelstrom was at the end when you got off and there was a loading dock and it was a small fishing village. But the big reveal was sort of the troll and this giant oil derrick. But when they announced, and this is sort of going back to what I said to about Mr. Toad, when they announced that they were closing Maelstrom to put in a Frozen attraction, the internet collectively imploded and lost its mind. And for the kumbaya of the Disney community, there were two sides, the Maelstrom, people that loved it and didn't want to see Frozen come in. And then people who said, hey, it's time for change. I haven't ridden Maelstrom in years. And it was a touchy subject for a while. But like I said, it's always evolving. And love it or not, people are still clamoring for Frozen. I mean, waiting hours online just to meet Anna and Elsa.
Do we know anything about the ride they're going to be putting in?
We do. We know that they are actually expanding the entire pavilion, the entire building. It is going to be a Frozen-themed attraction, but you will get some inspiration from Norway. I think, as Disney is wont to do, there will probably be some nice tributes sort of hearkening back to the old Maelstrom. And they will certainly keep the spirit and the influence of Norway, which did influence the locations of Arendelle and Frozen, intact. So there will definitely be a connection between Frozen and the pavilion.
Well, my position is, look, the movie was such a hit. People want it. And if they're in the entertainment business, which they are, entertainment and service, then give the people what they want. I think it was you that told me that people have been waiting in line hours just to meet the characters.
Yeah, the fact that a parent will walk into Magic Kingdom, and this has since changed because they've introduced a fast pass system, but when Anna and Elsa were at Norway and then moved over to Magic Kingdom, when a parent walks in and says, 6-hour wait, yeah, that's a good idea. Come on. And that's half your day waiting online to meet these princesses. I think that speaks volume. They could not keep merchandise on the shelves, and you do need to give people what they want. And maybe Frozen doesn't resonate with you, but clearly there's a huge demographic and a huge portion of the population that is still clamoring for it. And it just makes sense to have a Frozen attraction there.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit. I'm sure Norway is a beautiful place, and I know that I have followers and viewers that are in Norway, and so nothing against the country at all, but I thought it was interesting that the thing that was most presented in the Maelstrom ride is a troll, which is mythology, except if you're on the internet, then there's plenty of them, and oil derricks.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's the best that Norway has to offer. And so what's wrong with it? We have fiction in there already. We've got these fictional characters that are beloved. So we got a question here in the chat room. Says, I'll be in San Diego for Social Media Marketing World. What's the best way to take a day trip up to Disney? Transportation? Can I fit both parks in? And if not, which should I see? It's a big question.
Oh man, so I can't speak to the transportation. I'm an Orlando guy. I do know it's not that far to
get a car.
There. Yeah, get a car. I mean, obviously traffic could be an issue from what I've experienced in Southern California. For a day trip, can you do both parks? Absolutely. The beautiful thing about Disneyland is how close DCA. I mean, you can literally throw a stone from the entrance to DCA across the promenade to Disneyland. You can do it. You may not want to, you may want to spend more time in one of the parks because it might be tough to sort of see everything, depending on the time of year, when you go, how crowded it may be, but you can certainly do it. You can get a 2-park pass and knock it out and go commando style and sleep when you get home.
I had the opportunity just a couple weeks ago to keynote at IZEA Fest in Orlando, and they had it at the Dolphin, which I didn't realize until I was there that the Dolphin and the Swan are no longer operated by Disney. They're Starwood resorts. Really super nice place. And Ted Murphy, the CEO of IZEA Fest, basically rented out Disney Hollywood from after what's the show there that's called the water show? Fantasmic, which was Fantasmic. Yeah. I cheered when Mickey, conquered evil at the end. It was awesome. But he rented it out for a couple hours and the park was closed to everybody else. And we just had that one wing where the Tower of Terror and the Rock and Roller Coaster was. And so I'm not a Tower of Terror guy. I feel like it gives me it shakes my brain and I don't like the experience, but I love the Rock and Roller Coaster and we'll ride that again and again and again. And it was just so cool being in the park where, I mean, you can stretch your arms out and there's nobody around. There's so much room.
Yeah, and Sunset Boulevard is beautiful, especially at night. Even if you don't ride Tower of Terror, just the way they light it at night. You got that courtyard in front of Rock and Roller Coaster, and you do that sort of feeling of being extra special and having the park, or at least that section of the park, all to yourself. I'm actually a big Tower of Terror guy. I love the attraction. More importantly, I love the story. I love the theming. I mean, I think one of these days you come down, we'll hit studios next. We'll walk you through the queue because I want you to see the queue and to see the details, and then you can chicken exit your way out.
Well, I love the rest. I did it one time. I love the rest of the ride. I just don't, the drop, I'm not scared of it. I literally felt like my brain was hitting my skull. And when I got done, I just thought, I was like, I don't feel well.
Yeah.
That it was really cool to see the theme, but it wasn't pleasant. And so I learned my lesson. It's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, not every attraction is for everybody, but there's usually something that you can find. What is your favorite attraction in Walt Disney World? If you can go and only ride one thing, what would it be?
Well, I've been so many times, so I've got it. Let's assume that I have not already ridden everything again and again and again. I think that it's going to be a tie between the Haunted Mansion and Space Mountain.
Nice.
I love the thrill of Space Mountain. I love coasters, and the Haunted Mansion is probably the best themed track ride that Disney has ever done.
And I think Space Mountain in Disneyland is phenomenal.
And it was closed this time, so I've forgotten what the difference is between the two. What about you, Lou? Let's put it back on you, the Walt Disney World expert.
So in terms of my favorite attraction, I only have to pick one. See, this is where the lawyer in me comes out. I'm going to try and sneak because I'm a nostalgic man. I dig, Haunted Mansion's like the first thing that comes to mind because it is, the beauty is in the fact that it's classic. Now that I'm local, I'm not going to the parks to ride attractions that often, but I will tell you something, man. As much as I like Mansion and Expedition Everest and Tower of Terror, you see what I'm doing here? There is something beautiful in the simplicity of riding the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, just sort of taking a trip around Tomorrowland, different attraction day and at night, kind of just relaxing and do a little bit of people watching.
I love that as well, and I was really disappointed that the People Mover was closed at Disneyland. And the Skyway is also gone and has been for some time. So changes are hard, especially because we have so many emotions tied to experiencing it when we were children. So any kind of change. I even miss America Sings.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. The reason why people are so passionate about Disney, why we keep going back, why we have annual passes, why people move down here is because we have an emotional connection to this brand, whether it's going to the parks with our parents or watching, the wonderful world of Disney and seeing Uncle Walt on Sunday night, whatever it may be, there is something that sort of resonates with us emotionally.
Yeah. And it's the humidity, I think, that keeps a lot of us away, where everything just sticks to you like that. But I think I probably end up going to at least once a year to a park, sometimes two, because of the travel I do to both coasts. And I'm never going to grow up.
And I don't think you ever should. And I think that's what Disney affords you the ability to do is you walk through that gate, you step through that portal, and it all goes away, right? You're allowed to be a kid again, and it's okay because everybody else in there feels the exact same way.
Well, my guest here on the Joel Comm Show is Lou Mongello, and I'm going to open it up here for anybody that wants to come in and say hello to Lou, share any Walt Disney World experiences, or ask any questions about the Magic Kingdom. Now, Lou, while we're waiting for that, we have done Epcot together, and we've done Magic Kingdom. So next time, which is it going to be? Is it going to be Hollywood, or is it going to be Animal Kingdom?
It's going to depend when you come down, man, because Animal Kingdom in the summer is like Africa hot. So if you come in the spring or the winter, maybe Animal Kingdom. If you come in the summer, we'll be hitting the studios next.
All right, we'll play it by ear, and we've got a friend that is calling in right now, and maybe some technical difficulties getting on. Make sure that
he's coming all the way from the UK. I know who Moja 10S is.
So somebody, Spider Working, asks, Disneyland Paris, anyone? I've never been. I understand it's a little different. Have you been, Lou?
I have not. I'm most likely going to do a group trip out there next year. It is, from what I understand, a very different animal. It's not sort of owned and operated by Disney. It's a French company that runs it. So there's a little bit of difference in terms of the culture and the way things are done. It's a much smaller park. Certainly, if you're used to Walt Disney World, it's much, much smaller than World or even Land. But I'm curious to see it, and more importantly, to try the food.
Have you been to Tokyo?
Dude, that is like bucket list item number one, because my understanding now, look, I want to go to Tokyo and see Japan, in and of itself for a few weeks, but Disney Sea is supposed to be the most beautiful thing Disney has ever put together.
It's called what?
So there's Tokyo Disneyland, and then a second park is Tokyo Disney Sea.
Sea, which is S-E-A?
S-E-A. Yeah, I mean, there's like a Jules Verne, there's like a very adventure-y type of attractions like that, and it's just and I don't watch a lot because I don't want to be spoiled, but from what I've seen, it's just breathtaking.
Lou, what would it take for us to put together an excursion
Not a lot.
I mean, maybe we should actually, because Tokyo is on my bucket list as well, and I think that there's a business model clearly in that, bringing people over where it's not just going to Tokyo Disney, but having a day of training or whatever.
It's something we've been talking about for a long time, and realizing that, people need to save a little bit because it's a little tough to get, it's a little pricey to get out there. But yeah, maybe we connect a little bit of Disney, a little bit of business, and make it happen.
Masterminding.
Right? You see the little hamster rolling around in the heads?
No. All right. Talk. So what do you know about a fifth park? And of course, there's two parks that we don't really talk much about, which are the water parks, Blizzard Beach and Tycoon Lagoon, which you're going to just throw a fit right now. I think I might have told you before, but I've never been to either.
And they are like little theme parks. I mean, they really are. They are beautiful. They're well themed. There's tons of stuff to do, whether you are a thrill ride person or you want to just kick back on the beach or lazy river. In terms of a fifth gate, it's something that's been talked about for a long, long time. There's been a rumor of a villains theme park. There's been rumor of a lot of different things. I can tell you, and I would, if I was a betting man, which I am, I'd bet everything I have that a fifth park is not coming anytime soon. And the reason why is because there's still so much room to expand in the existing parks. And I've got 1, 2, 3, however many words for you. Toy Story Land and Star Wars Land are coming, and those are going to completely change the game and the landscape at Disney's Hollywood Studios and over in Disneyland too. So Star Wars Land is going to be at the studios. Yep.
What do we know about it?
We know it's going to be unlike anything we've seen before. There's Star Wars weekends where they have sort of themed the weekends, and there's Star Tours, the attraction in both coasts. But this is going to be a completely immersive land with multiple attractions, multiple venues. A canteen is going to be there. And when you step through that portal, you are on some remote planet. There's no more cast members there. There are aliens and then residents of that planet. So you feel like you're going to step into the Star Wars universe. There's going to be a Millennium Falcon I am geeking the geek out, man, because I'm a huge Star Wars guy. And this is what, little 8-year-old Lou Mongello was praying for when Star Wars came out. So it's going to be something spectacular. And also, too, Avatar Land, the world of Pandora, is coming to Animal Kingdom. So there's massive, massive growth coming to Walt Disney World right now.
When you look at the traditional themes for each zone in the parks, they've not really been tied to a specific film or story. They're tied to a theme. Fantasyland, Frontier, Adventure, which contains a tiki room and Indiana Jones and all these other types of things. But having a Star Wars land, we'll just start with that one before we even hit the others. I kind of feel like that is Disney's answer to Harry Potter Land at Universal.
So, and to be clear, I'm not paid by the company. I don't work for the company. I just simply love this place. I actually don't think that's the case because years ago, the first sort of step into that model really started happening with Cars Land at Disney California Adventure, which I think is the most spectacular thing Imagineering has done in probably the last 15 to 20 years. Because when you step onto Route 66, all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, I'm in the film. And the story goes, and I was there for the media, kids are going like, wow, mom, like, is this where they film the movie? Because you watch the movie and then go there, or vice versa. And it's down to every little detail. They are going to really sort of plus that up even more so when you get to Star Wars land, in terms of every aspect of it, making you feel as though you have stepped into the frame of the movie.
Yeah, it was really amazing. So I had seen Cars Land before, and my daughter looked at it and she was like, look at that. And there's the motel, that's the road cones. I think that's my favorite piece of the set. And she really loved the gas station with the oversized gas pumps. Yeah. And fortunately, we got a fast pass for the ride because it was a 75-minute wait. And we did a lot of park hopping. It was back and forth and lunch and dinner and back, and we got on the ride in 5 minutes once our fast pass kicked in, and she loved it. It's, I think basically it was inspired by Test Track, right? Same technology and idea, but they themed it up for cars where you've got the race.
And I think it really is the quintessential Disney attraction for me, because I think it's a multi-act play. The first part of the attraction, you're getting these beautiful vistas, and there's that great reveal with the waterfall, and the music is going behind you. And then you go inside, and there's a repeatability factor, because you don't know if your car is going to be detailed by Ramon or get your tires changed by Luigi. And then you get to sort of Act 3, where there's a race. You're racing another car outside, and you're doing 65 miles an hour, and it feels like 100, and you don't know who's going to win. And everybody's just got that same, like, again, childlike expression of giddiness on their face. I think it's just so well executed.
So the race itself, of course, it's got to be predetermined on every run. Do you think that it alternates back and forth so they keep do you know how it works?
It's random.
It does?
Yep, completely random. So you really never know, the left side won last time, the right side's going to win? Not at all.
So you're saying the ride operators don't even know which car is going to win?
Nope.
There's
a little computer somewhere that,
there's hamsters on a wheel that run faster. Our number one's going to win. Move.
But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you're watching the other car and you're cheering, and then when you win or whatever, you're throwing your hands up, and obviously they take a great, souvenir picture too. It's really, really good fun.
So you mentioned Toy Story Land, and that's coming to Disney World, to the Magic Kingdom?
It's coming also to Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Wait, both?
Both. So when I said that Hollywood Studios is changing, it absolutely is. And look, for many people, especially if you don't like attractions like Star Tours, or you don't like Tower Terror, sometimes people say, well, it's kind of a half-day park. There's a lot of shows, and things have been sort of slowly closing, right? Which, the handwriting's been on the wall. The dominoes are falling because you knew something big was coming. So on one section of the park, you're going to have a 14 or so acre Star Wars land. And in another section, you're going to have an almost equal size Toy Story Land, which is going to make you feel as though you're shrunk down to the size of a toy. And I believe there's 3 or 4 attractions that have currently been announced.
And before we take our call, do we have tentative dates on when each of those are going to open?
So I think you're going to start seeing, and if all comes to plan, I think you'll see Star Wars Land opening in phases, probably beginning 2018, maybe 2019. And they have not sort of given any indication to Toy Story Land as yet.
Someday. Mitch Jackson, welcome to the Joel Comm Show. How are you, buddy?
Hello, Joel. How are you? Hi, Lou. How are you doing?
Hey, Mitch. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I was going to try to jump on sooner. I was looking for a picture, and Disneyland and Walt Disney have a very special place in the Jackson family. Back 2 years before I was born, back in around 1955, 56, Walt Disney and his wife came out and stayed a week at my parents' guest ranch in Tucson, Arizona. And what I was looking for, and I've got the picture in our garage at home, the original, but I took a snapshot shot some time ago. And that's Walt on my mom's horse. That horse's name is Rome, up at Gates Pass, just outside of Tucson, Arizona, where we would take the guest once a week for a barbecue. The day after this picture was taken, Walt and my mother drove down to a place called Old Tombstone, which is in southern Arizona. And the story I was told is that that's where he got the idea and came back and did the Western Frontierland, or whatever it's called, at Disneyland, from his experience in Old Tombstone. And if you've been to Old Tombstone, you'll see that it looks a lot, what we have now in Anaheim looks a lot like old Tombstone. So that was back in the mid 1950s. So I just wanted to share the picture of Walt on my mother's horse. And, this is one of the powers of live streaming and Blab, right, Joel?
Absolutely. We get to show and tell. That's a great story, man.
Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to pop back up, but I just wanted to say hi and just let you know it's amazing how many people Walt, his family, and the theme parks have touched, over our lives, right? So,
that's beautiful, man.
Okay, guys, story. Take care.
Beautiful.
How many people can say Walt rode my mother's horse? That's a sentence I never thought I would put together.
I know one now. It was 0. Now it's 1. So Mitch Jackson, great story. Wow. Epic.
Yeah, but that's what it is, man. Everybody's got a story, right? The reason why we go to World and Land and keep going back is not because of the great ads on TV or the banners on online. It's because of the stories that we come back with. And we so are excited to tell somebody else. And you're like, wow, Joel and his 20-something-year-old daughter had a great time. I don't have any kids. I don't need kids because, look, these adults are going and have a great time together.
Yeah, it lets you be a kid. I mean, where else can you go, Mickey, and go run up to him and get your, picture taken because you're all excited to meet Mickey. And I got, the other day, I got a thank you from Walt Disney World Resort, and it was an autographed picture from Mickey. He took the time with his big hand. I don't know how he signs with those huge hands of his, but he managed to scritch it out for me. When I was talking Disney with my daughter, we were talking about why Walt planned to build Walt Disney World and how he went about buying the land without anybody knowing. Can you kind of give us a little background on the whys and how he did it?
Yeah, I mean, the Disney and the Disney company did something that really had never been done on a scale like that before, and honestly could never ever happen again. After Walt built Disneyland, was already, his mind was working about not repeating it again. But look, Walt was not just a theme park and entertainment guy. He was also a futurist. He was he loved sort of this idea of urban planning, and really the impetus for building Walt Disney World was the Epcot project, this experimental prototype community of tomorrow. He knew he needed much more land than he had out in California. Looked at a variety of different locations throughout the country, including places like St. Louis, Southern Florida, eventually settled on Orlando because it was where sort of the I-95 corridor had met up with sort of I-4, and he sort of looked down, actually flew over an island right near the Contemporary. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the spot because it's just the weather's perfect. It's easy for people from the Northeast to drive down and get down to, and formed numerous dummy corporations and had people sort of flying back and forth around the country, buying up land in little or big parcels, nobody knowing who it was, thinking it was from the Space Coast. Was it Ford? Was it Boeing? And then one day a local newspaper said, we think it's Disney. And the next day they had a press conference and they're like, yep, but it was too late. They had already bought it for, pennies an acre.
So all of the land, did they buy everything that they currently have now, or has some of the purchase been after the fact?
They bought, 99% of it back then. There's small parcel acquisitions here and there. There was actually only one tiny little part that they weren't able to, that they couldn't purchase because they didn't know who owned it. It was a Chinese family that had owned it for years. Now sort of where the Bonnet Creek Resort sort of has a little parcel of land, kind of in the middle of Disney property, but 47 square miles. And only the interesting thing, Joel, is less than a quarter of all this property has been developed. 1/4 set aside for a preserve. It'll never be built on, but everything that's here, the 4 water parks, 2 theme parks, 30, hotels, takes up less than a quarter of all the property that they own.
So they can still just continue to build out for generations.
Yeah.
And as it is, I mean, how many people does Walt Disney World employ? The whole region there.
So just in Walt Disney World alone, it's about 66,000 cast members. So wow. Largest single site employer. I think they are still the largest single site employer in the United States.
That's amazing. And I think Orlando has more land mass, just the volume of the city proper itself than any other American city. Somebody can fact check that for me. I may or may not be right. I discovered this while looking at my phone. This is proof. You know, we like to take selfies with celebrities, and there is me and the man himself. Now, there's some policies that you have to adhere to as a cast member, especially as a character. Can you tell us about some of the rules of being a cast member?
So I am not a cast member, nor have I ever been. But look, the one thing that Disney does so well, right? The rides are great. The food, clearly, I enjoy. But the reason why we go, Joel, and the reason why we go back is because of the cast members. They make your experience, right? A cast member made sure that you not only had a good time while you were there, but hey, let's just do something nice for Joel and send him a picture of Mickey, right? It's those little things. It's the little interactions. I saw somebody had asked a question like, you know, does the staff have to be happy all the time? They don't have to be, but it's part of the philosophy. It's part of the mission. Every cast member has one job: to make people happy. That's it. You can teach them how to be a cashier, how to clean the room, how to sweep the streets, operate a ride. Once they are, and I think it's really in your DNA, you either have it or you don't. When you sort of have that sort of vested interest in everybody's vacation experience as if it was your own family members, that's why they go out of the way. That's why they do what they do. You know, I think that's sort of it's a somewhat circuitous answer, but I think that really is. I think that's the heart of what they do is simply believing in this mission statement of making people happy, whatever you need to do to make it happen.
Well, I've heard, and maybe you can corroborate this, there's a good legal word for you to pull at the lawyer that's still with the lawyer within. He'll always be there, but he can be repressed. So that's good. My understanding is that if you are a character as a cast member, that you can never be seen without, you know, for example, the head on, right? That's strictly forbidden. That you're not supposed to tell anybody who you play. Do you know anything about that?
I don't even know what you're talking about, man. Because the characters are the characters, like,
and that's exactly why.
Right. So I don't know what you're thinking, but I mean, I know some people who are friends of characters. You know, they certainly, you know, Cinderella and Anna and Elsa and Mickey, they all have tons of friends. But look, you know, there is one Mickey. You're only going to find one Mickey in Magic Kingdom at any given time. You're only going to see one Anna, one Elsa. You know, and it's I think that's part of the attractiveness of the experience is knowing that you can see these characters and talk. And look, you've seen it, man. You run up to Mickey or, you know, Jasmine or whoever, and you want to give them a hug, right? And I see kids and adults do. Look, you're taking selfies with Mickey. You know, it's yeah.
And I always will. So describe to me your perfect day at anywhere in Walt Disney World. It's the perfect day. You get to pick who you're with, where you're going, what you're doing. It's your last chance to do it. You have, oh my gosh, this is like your last meal, right? It's the last time you're ever going to get to go because you're going to be beamed up by aliens and this is it. What is your perfect day?
That is an awesome but crummy question all at the same time. Because of course I want to go with Joel Comm.
No, I'm not it.
And I will tell you that it would probably revolve a lot around food. So, but taking that out of the equation, I'm struggling between, do I try and do as much as I can one last time? Do I go commando and hit all four parks and hit my favorite attraction?
Go commando. We don't need to know that.
You know, you go there from rope drop until they kick you out, you know, the very last person. I don't know if I would do that as opposed to just taking it slow. Look, the thing that I love about the parks really isn't the attractions. It's kind of like what we did. And I'm not trying to, you know, suck up to our experience, but just wandering the parks.
Suck up.
No, but I love just wandering the parks, listening to the background music, smelling the popcorn, hearing the kids laugh, and watching, you know, these big, macho, muscular, tattooed guys holding their daughter up on their shoulder, like crying at watching their reaction to things. You know, listening to a parade or just sort of sitting in Frontierland or Wandering World Showcase. I think that's probably how I would do it. I would take a leisurely stroll through the fall. Who am I kidding? I would eat my way around the 4 parks. That's it.
All right, let's talk about that, because a lot of people don't realize that the quality of the food at these theme parks, they've really upped the ante at a lot of the locations.
I am not just saying this, man. I will tell you that some of the best meals I have ever had on planet Earth have been at Disney parks or even the Disney Cruise Line. We're out at a Disney resort in Hawaii. The people who think that Walt Disney World is only about burgers and chicken nuggets and French fries are missing. I mean, there are hundreds, and I mean, there's more than 370 or so different dining locations at Walt Disney World. Some of the hotels, phenomenal. I don't know if you ate, for example, I don't know if you were at the Dolphin. Blue Zoo by Todd English is one of my favorite restaurants in the entire world. Like, my favorite meal I have ever is actually at Blue Zoo.
What is that meal? What do you order there?
I don't even need the menu anymore, man. They have a miso glazed Miro fish and this nitrogen crusted sriracha tuna appetizer. When we go, well, trust me, it'll change your life.
And Lou's got to go right now. He's
I need
hungry,
to go.
and the show is
so
over.
Good. I wept. It was amazing. But there's lots of that found throughout the parks and the resorts. I mean, Disney really does dining well.
Well, hit us up if you're going to go to the Magic Kingdom and you don't want burgers and nuggets. Where's your go-to place?
So I would start off. So assuming maybe I would have breakfast at Crystal Palace. With Pooh and Eeyore and Tigger.
And that's what we ate there. Yeah, in fact, we got pictures with Pooh, and I turned that into a word swag.
Yep, I remember. I would have breakfast at the Crystal Palace, character meal, buffet, great food, and if you want to get up and have a parade with Pooh and the characters, you can do that too. I would have lunch at the Plaza restaurant. It's a sit-down, small restaurant just off Main Street. They have amazing sandwiches and salads, and what they're really sort of embodies that Victorian era charm. And for dinner, man, that's tough. Where would I want to go for dinner? Where would I take Joel for dinner at Magic Kingdom? I don't know if I would take you to Cinderella's Royal Table inside the castle, just so you can have that another character type meal, or even something like Liberty Tree Tavern in front. Who am I kidding? I would take you to Frontierland, and I would get you a really good burger in Frontierland and some waffle fries and gravy at the Golden Oak Outpost.
It is, Frontierland is it's a small region known for Splash Mountain, pretty much, right? I think they've closed the Country Bear Jamboree, and they used to
in World we still have it.
Okay, so what else is in Frontierland that Tom Sawyer? It's not Tom Sawyer's Island anymore, is it?
Well, you have the Pirate Lair Island. We still have Tom Sawyer Island. We also both have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which I think is arguably one of the best roller coasters in any of the parks on both coasts. There's also the Riverboat, which starts off in Liberty Square, but really takes you primarily through Frontierland. You also have the Frontierland Railroad Station, and all the food. The food to me is an attraction, so I would put the food in there as well.
Lou likes to eat.
Man.
In case you didn't know, I'm with Lou Mongello here on the Joel Comm Show. Walt Disney World Radio, WDW Radio, is the podcast that you can get on iTunes. And is it in the Google Play Store now as well?
It is. Yep.
Fantastic. And I said at the beginning, I guessed how many listeners you have. I'm not sure if I underestimated, but can you give us an idea of how many people hear your show?
This is not meant to be an evasive lawyer answer, man. But going back to sort of the business side of things, my answer is I don't care. And what I mean by that is I don't check my stats daily, weekly, monthly, because it wouldn't change the show that I do. I do my show for the people who are listening. And if they like it, hopefully they go and they tell their friends. I am humbled and grateful that so many people, week after week tune in and do sort of share it. It is in the six figures in terms of downloads a month. And I think that's a testament to the listeners telling their friends and the community that they have built. I recognize a lot of familiar names in here, and that just sort of goes to show what they have built and sort of the tribe that they have created.
Yeah, well, and they're following you, literally following to hear what you have to say next. And that, to me, makes you a perfect example of one of the things I've been teaching for years is find what you're passionate about. And if you are excited about it, there's going to be an audience, no matter how long tail it is. Walt Disney World is broad, but at the same time, it's very targeted. And there's a lot of people out there that love Disney. And as Disney Buff said in the chat room here, we aren't fans, we are family. Tracy wants to know, how do we find your podcast?
So it is in iTunes. It's on Stitcher and Google Play. The easiest way is just to go to WDWRadio.com. You can also listen to it on the site there.
Linda says she's a former cast member. Linda, if you want to hop on and tell us a little bit, would love to hear what you did. Just go ahead and click in the seat. Lou, which resort at Walt Disney World is your favorite to stay at? I know you're going to have a hard time, but go ahead. Name one.
Beach Club is my favorite for location, amenities, a number of things. But I think Wilderness Lodge overall is one of the most beautiful, well-themed, well-located resorts. You talk about a transformative experience that you forget about being in Central Florida. Wilderness Lodge, especially at the holidays. I spent one night at the what's it called? Their budget inn where you've got the All-Star. Yeah, and it really did feel like a budget inn. The theme was cool, but it didn't have the it factor that some of the other resorts have. That's why it was really nice to spend one night there and then go to the Dolphin. Hey, Linda, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Joel? Nice to see you. And
great. I'm assuming you know Lou.
I do not know Lou, but I'm in Orlando as well, Lou, and a fellow attorney. I'm actually still practicing. I know. I'm sorry. But I do really fun law. I do adoptions. So,
beautiful.
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
That's
among other
law.
thing my
That's
life.
happy law.
Anyway, but I'm going to have to listen to your show. I have to confess I haven't listened to it, but I'm so glad to be introduced to it. I was a cast member decades ago when I graduated from high school. So you can just guess how many decades, because I'm not going to tell you. And but a long time ago, and I worked in a store that's no longer there. It was in Liberty Square, called the Antique Store.
Oh my God! Old World Antiques. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, we have to get together for coffee. I
would love to. And so it's in a building across the street from the Hall of Presidents in Liberty Square. And then there were three shops tied together. So on the antique store was in the middle. On one end was the silversmith, and I used to drool over all that handmade silver. And then on the other end was the perfumery. And we had the most shoplifting happen in the perfumery, just so you know.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But people would come at, I have this fun story. I had a wonderful friend who was just the opposite of me in look. She had very long, dark hair. She's just gorgeous. We were both in our costumes of the Liberty Square, long dresses and stuff. And there's not a whole lot of buying going on in the antique shop. And so we would have periods of time where we would just stand very still. And so people would just come through there. And so at one point in time, we were just standing there, not talking and just kind of looking around. And a group of people were coming by, and one of us turned to the other to make a comment. And the two people who were right in front of us jumped out of their shorts. They thought we were Hall of Presidents type people. No, and we started talking. They jumped out of their shorts. It was a lot of fun. So then we tried to recreate that every time.
Nice. So I used to love the old world. My parents actually had an antique business. So we would go there, and it was so funny because the thing about the antique store, it was not Disney created antiques. They were real sourced antiques from around the world. And it smelled like an antique store. Like it smelled like your grandmother's attic. And I will tell you, Linda, that one of my holy grails of collectibles is to get one of the custom perfume bottles from the perfumery.
Oh,
I have never been able to find one ever.
Oh, wow. You've been looking on eBay and every place you can.
Everywhere. Because people don't know, you used to be able to get custom perfumes made.
Yes.
You could sort of make your own concoction, and then when you went back, you're like, oh, I need the Joel Comm 1, 2, 3, and then they would remix it, and you can get Joel's favorite perfume.
It was really popular. People loved doing that. It was so very special. Yeah. Great times. But the antique store is no longer there. I actually, the buyer, the antiques buyer would come in fairly frequently. And so we got to meet him, and see him, and he would tell us about his trips all over the world to buy those antiques. They were definitely real.
Oh, I'm serious. Please hit me up. I would love to. I'm local too in Orlando. I'd love to grab coffee with you one day.
I'll look you up. I'll find you. Thank you so much for having me on, Joel. You have a great show.
Linda.
Thanks.
Great story. Boy, what a thrill, Lou. Huh?
That's awesome.
Somebody that's got a little history there, and now you got a new friend.
Oh, I dig it.
And maybe it's one step closer to getting the Holy Grail that you're looking for. Dude, you have so many great stories. When we were at World Showcase at Epcot, you would point out to me the different things that were actually from the various nations that were brought in to create the sets. And you'd show me, you said, here's this statue here, which had I can't remember where it was, maybe Japan. There was a statue that had no markings on it, but you said that came from the president. Do you remember that story?
Yeah. So in the front of the Japan pavilion by the Zen Rock Garden is a lantern statue, which you're right, has no markings. There's no story attached to it, but it was actually given to Roy Disney by the president of Japan. And it was originally over at the Polynesian, that it's sort of a traditional Japanese gift that he brought over when he came. And then when the Japan pavilion opened, as sort of a sign of respect in return, they moved that lantern over there. And that's one of those things, man. That's one of the things I love showing people are those little details, because everything you see has a story, and everything you see is very deliberate and is there for a reason.
Did they actually ask to not label it and mark it? Did they want to keep it quiet so that this was just an inside thing? Because why wouldn't they put a sign?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it wasn't to necessarily call attention to it being a gift, or why not. Maybe just to sort of, I think, again, especially in the Japanese pavilion, where things are and the way they're placed and the way things are laid out is very symbolic. And there's not a lot of signage like that, I think, to keep the beauty of just sort of the natural landscape. And maybe that's why.
Well, there's those that will see the replay of the blab and have the visuals. Those of you on the podcast, I'm sorry, you'll have to go to my blog at joelcomm.com or my YouTube channel to see it. But Lou, I found some of our pictures. Where are we here?
So we're in the China pavilion, and dude, you never shoot up. You always shoot down to make us look tall and skinny.
I know, but I wanted the pavilion, and you took me inside, and I saw something that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah, the soldiers, and those are soldiers. Gosh, I can't remember exactly what they're called, but it is a section of thousands of them that were discovered in Japan. Look, the beauty of some of these pavilions, like we saw, Joel, is not necessarily in the architecture and symbolism you see outside, but when you do start to sort of walk through and find some of the details and the stories and the streets of Morocco and this replica of the Temple of Heaven. And we went into the middle, and you did sort of the sound, and you saw how the sound was perfectly. It's beautiful. I mean, the inlay and the colors and the tile work in that pavilion is gorgeous.
A spider working here in the chat column said terracotta soldiers. That's what they are.
There you go. Thank you.
And from terracotta to your favorite subject, I remember well dipping into the fresh caramel corn. Which pavilion was that outside?
Germany.
Yeah. We do like a short video. I think we did a short video too.
We did a short video, and I don't know if I didn't keep it on here, but here's your smiling face.
It was a hot day that day too.
It was a hot day, and I got to meet your family.
They photobombed us. They video bombed us as we were recording. I didn't even know that they were there.
They totally did. And then the last thing I'll show is you showed me in Japan. They had all kinds of unusual, authentic foods. Some of which I would just, I like. What is this? It's like crunchy crab.
And I did a video in Japan. I don't remember what it was called. It was like snack, my top 5 snacks in Japan. And the last thing I ate was the small crunchy crabs, the sort of dried crabs. which are not as disgusting as they seem. They were actually pretty good in small doses.
Actually, I do have one more thing that I'll show you, and you pulled a fast one on me. I can't remember where the soda machine was. Where is that soda machine, and why am I making
Club
that face?
Cool. Yeah, it's in Club Cool in Future World, where they have 7 or 8 different Coca-Cola beverages from around the world. Zimbabwe, South Africa, the Beverly from Italy.
The Beverly, that's what you said I needed to try. It says, Beverly, with its bitter flavor, is a popular non-alcoholic aperitif that is traditional part of Italian restaurant culture.
You fell hook, line, and sinker for the easiest, the oldest joke in the book. I mean, it's not a soda that you would order and drink. It's more of like a palate cleanser, but it's there just for that factor.
Yeah, it's there so that you can bring unsuspecting victims in and make a memory.
Exactly.
Last question before we call it a day, because I want to respect your time. I have my answer to it, but I want to hear yours first. Mike Baltus wants to know, so how good is Soarin'?
Soarin's good. It's about to get even better. I think Soarin' is spectacular. If you've never ridden it, sort of getting on this 3-tiered pulley system that brings you up in front of an IMAX screen and takes you soaring over California. It's about to sort of go down for a while. It's going to be retooled. You're going to get new 4K screens in there. It's going to be soaring over the world. So they've been filming that for the last few years. But it is an absolutely breathtaking attraction. I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it before, it's on both coasts, over at DCA and over at Epcot. It's spectacular and about to become mind-blowing.
Yeah, if you've not been in there, if you'll imagine an IMAX theater only with 3 rows of seats, and as the film begins to start, it's on this really brilliant engineering structure so that the seats are they go up, so your feet are dangling, and there are like 3 tiers of them, and then when it lands, you're all on the ground again. It's really brilliant.
And do you want to know a quick story about how that was made?
Yeah.
So the guy has this idea for this sort of soaring over California attraction, and he can't figure out the ride system to use for it. He's home from Imagineering over Thanksgiving break, and he grabs an erector set and makes it by hand with an erector set, and he creates this little crank system that has the 3 rows, and it brings the rows up, and you can swing it back and forth, and you can swing it in the back, and then he used the erector set, and that's what he brought into Imagineering next week.
Brilliant, and they loved it. Yeah. Lou Mongello, WDW Radio is the podcast. LouMongello.com is his website. And Lou, you also do some special events at the parks, right, where people can actually come and meet you and hang out and perhaps learn more on location.
Yeah, man, I love this, and I love, connecting online, but there's nothing like the face-to-face. And I think somebody said before, I'm a big believer in the handshake and a hug. So I do monthly free meetups every month in Walt Disney World, not so you can come meet me, so that I can meet you and hear your story, and you guys can meet one another. And then we also do other special events. We rent out attractions. We rent out parks. We do cruises every year. We're doing a Star Wars cruise in February. We're cruising out in New York in November. We got to get Joel Comm on one of these cruises. So it's a lot of fun. And I know people who are watching have been on some of these before. And it's a great experience with friends that you may have never even met yet.
Let's get one last question here from Kathy M. Hey, Kathy, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Rockland County, New York.
Fantastic. Glad you're here.
Everything I own, as far as except for this shirt, has Disney on it in some sort of way. Not because I'm a huge Disney fan, but my brother and sister are so addicted to going.
Huh.
So if you guys can advise how to convince people that you don't need to go every 6 months, it would be a help to me, because I'm tired of hearing of Disney.
I think you're talking to the wrong guy about that.
So, Kathy, have you gone yet? Or you just don't want to go because you've heard them talk about it?
No,
so much?
I have gone twice. The last time was in 2003.
Oh,
but
Kathy, you wouldn't recognize the place.
But they get so obsessed with it, especially my brother, where he will sit. We could be in a wedding. We were at a wedding, family wedding not long ago, and he turns to someone he doesn't know at the table and says, "Wow, it's only a 10-minute ride at Soarin'." 10-minute wait. And they just went the week before Halloween, and you would think he was jonesing off of heroin. I don't get. I don't get it. Yeah, it is almost like he's got the shake. I've never seen it so bad.
you need to come to a meet because he's not alone. You know, that's why 30, 40 million people go back every year. That's why they listen to podcasts. That's why they move there, because they need to get that connection. They need to get that Disney fix, whether it's a podcast
I
or
thought
video.
Apple was addicted. That's worse. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Kathy, we're sending you a little pixie dust courtesy of Tinkerbell. May you enjoy the magic, and thanks for coming on today. It's good to see you. An obsessive quality, OCD on Disney is what Deborah says, and we get it. Hey, Lou, dude, I can't wait to hang out with you, because while it's great speaking with you, there's nothing like face-to-face, walk in the park, sharing a meal, enjoying discussion.
Yeah, man. And thank you so much for having me on, man. I dig this, and you know I love you, brother. You do good stuff, and I love the fact that you pay forward to other people.
There it is. Got the shirt on. So thanks for those of you joining us for the Joel Comm Show. Yeah, it's kind of sporadic, but with all the travel I've got going on, it happens when it happens. And if you'll just tune into my blab.im/Joel Comm, you'll see upcoming shows. Invite you to subscribe so that you know when they're coming up. Also, Blab Talk Live with Vincenzo Landino, usually at least one evening a week into the late night. We're very into the evening with all the Blabs. You can see all my replays on my YouTube channel and also at joelcomm.com. Thanks again, Lou. We'll catch you at the Magic Kingdom, and the rest of you go out there and do good stuff.